Hey everyone, and welcome back to The Girl with the Shovel. I am Angela, and today we are going to propagate our snake plant. Okay, there are two main ways to propagate a snake plant. There is water propagation and there's soil propagation. Now, while both of them work, I've found that soil propagation can sometimes be a little finicky. So definitely, if you're a beginner or just getting started out with propagation, go with the water propagation method. It is by far a lot easier, and that is what we're going to do today. So I'm going to walk you step by step through how to water propagate your snake plant. So for water propagation, you'll need a few things. You'll need your snake plant, of course, which I have my snake plant here. You will need water, and you will need a container. That's pretty much it. So it's pretty easy. Eventually, you're going to need a small pot and some soil. We'll cover that at the end. So step one is to take a good cutting. Now, snake plants are kind of interesting in that they don't really have like your typical nodes like we think about in other propagation methods. Actually, any part of this leaf can be propagated. The only thing is you want to make sure that you don't have any mushy or yellow stems or sections on your stem, because that will lower your chance of having a successful propagation. So to do that, I've got my snake plant here that it's a little funky. It's kind of grown a little crazy, so I have slowly been taking some cuttings of leaves that aren't really in the right spot. I'll take this big guy right here, and you want to just cut along the stem. Now that we've done that, one leaf can actually be used for multiple propagations, okay? So we can cut this into several different sections. I would just advise that you have a few inches, like I like to have about 6 inches worth of leaf in each section. So I'm gonna cut this guy into, I'm just gonna do 2. I don't need a ton. Okay, so I'm going to cut them into 2 sections, but one thing to make sure is that you remember which side is down and which side is up. That's going to be very important as you're growing them. So what a lot of people do is when they have their section, they'll actually cut a little V into it. Okay, so then you know you have a top here, and then the little V. Not only does the 45 angle increase the amount of surface area that there is to root, but it also is a little arrow pointing down. So you can see that you've got a top here. So this part is the bottom, and then this part is the bottom, and then this part's the top. So that's a quick tip of how some people like to do their propagations. So if you see like different little shapes in your snake plant in other people's propagations, you can tell, oh, that's so that they know which side is up, as well as to increase the amount of surface area for the bottom leaf. So step 2 is to dry out your cutting. Okay, now I usually leave mine out for a day or 2, just kind of on a countertop or on a table. Leave it out of direct sunlight, but you need to make sure that the cut that you just made, that it seals. You want it to seal shut. So these are 2 that I have cut a few days ago. They've been out for about 2 days, and you can see here, it's got a nice little seal on that edge. Okay, so this one I didn't do the V, I just cut it straight across because I could tell which side was up. So on both of these, this will be the side that's actually down. So you can see it's got a nice little seal there. And then to show you, here is the one that I just cut. You see how that is still pretty fresh and green. Okay, you want to make sure that that is fully sealed. And that will be your biggest determination of having a successful water propagation with snake plant, is if it has fully sealed or not. So make sure with this plant that you always dry it out before you put it in water. So step 3 is to place your cutting in water. After it's dried, make sure you haven't skipped that step. Okay, now I have a nice little glass here with some water in it, and I am just going to put that right in. Make sure you get the right side facing down, right into water. These are the ones that I have dried out. I'm not going to put the other ones in yet because they haven't dried. Okay, and leave that in water for several weeks. And in several weeks, you should start to see some root growth. Okay, so here are some snake plants that I have previously propagated. You'll see they actually do pretty well. This one is the newest propagation. It doesn't really have a stem yet. It's just the leaf has rooted. And then the longer you have it in here, it will actually start to grow a new little stem out of that base right there. So that is great. You don't have to wait for this to put it in soil. This guy right here, he is ready to go in soil already. We don't have to wait for a new shoot to appear, but it is a good sign. Okay, and then something to look out for. This one I've had in straight water for a few years. Let me say, it's grown, it's been in some low light, so it hasn't had very heavy growth, as well as it hasn't been in soil, so it hasn't had a lot of new growth. But you can see this stem is much more mature. It's got quite a few more leaves on it. It's been ready for soil for a while. But I just wanted to show you this part over here is kind of brown, mushy. Okay, this is just because it's been in water for so long. It did have a good seal, but it's been in for a very, very long time. So if you start seeing any brown, mushy portions or kind of like yellowing, mushy portions, you know that you haven't been successful in your cutting. Okay, so this guy, you'll see it. There is a small section of kind of brown, but it's not that mushy, soft tissue. Okay, that is a sign of root rot, or in this case, stem rot, and that is not going to grow roots. It means that bacteria got in there, you didn't have a good enough seal. So if you keep not having successful propagations with your snake plant in water, specifically, the main number one reason why people don't have success with this is because they don't let their cutting dry out enough. Okay, so if that is you, just make sure that you give it a little bit more time. Let it dry, maybe even 2 days, maybe even 3 days. These are semi-succulents, so they store water in their leaves, and so they will have some extra water. They won't dry out right away. Just make sure you have a nice, good seal on there before putting it in water. Okay, so step 4 is to place your rooted cutting into soil. So for this, make sure you have a smaller pot. I know a lot of times people think, oh, I'll put it in a big pot, it'll grow big. Not the case. Okay, especially when these guys have smaller root systems, they won't get huge root systems right away. So you want to start off with a small pot. Okay, you want to put it in, and then we're going to talk soil. Soil, you want to use a light, airy soil. In general with snake plant, they like more of a cactus and succulent soil, or just a regular houseplant soil amended with more perlite. So like add in several more scoops of perlite to your regular houseplant soil. And next, make sure that your pot has really good drainage, okay? That is gonna be key here. You don't wanna go straight from soil or straight from water into soil and then have poor drainage, okay? So light, airy, well-draining soil, well-draining pot, small pot, that'll set you up for success. Okay, so I've got my cactus and succulent soil here, and I'm going to go ahead and start putting this in. Okay, you can see I fill it up a little bit, and then I'm going to place my snake plant in. Okay, so we have now potted up our snake plant. Remove that. So some things that you'll want to make sure that you do when you do this, once again, small pot please. You see the size ratio here. And then you are also going to want to make sure that the soil is up to the level of where the roots are, okay? So you don't want to put the soil way up here or else you're going to have some more stem rot issues. Make sure that it's down where the roots start. And that can sometimes cause issues, so mainly with it staying upright, especially when you have a whole leaf, like I did right here. I propagated an entire leaf, and so it's kind of wobbling a bit. Okay, your shorter ones won't wobble around so much when they're in the soil, but your taller ones will. So you can put in a little plant stake, a little support, a little bamboo stick, just to kind of support it while it's growing its roots into soil. And then I'm going to give it a really good soak, just moisten all that soil up and make sure that it has a nice moist environment, which will go into step 5, which is caring for your new snake plant. You want to make sure for the first several weeks that you keep the soil lightly moist, okay? It's going from a very wet environment into soil. Now, that doesn't mean you waterlog your soil and totally drench it, because then you'll have bacterial problems. Make sure that you're watering it frequently, but that it's also draining out, and it's lightly drying but not fully drying in between each time you water it. And then keep it out of direct sunlight for the first little bit while it's still establishing its roots in the soil, because it won't be able to handle a lot of hot direct sunlight at the very beginning. And then after a few weeks, you should be good to go. You should be ready to put this little guy with all of your new houseplants and with your other snake plants if you got it from one of your other plants. And then you can continue to care for it how you would all of your original snake plants. If you aren't sure how to do that, check out my video on snake plant care. I also have an awesome video about snake plant troubleshooting, what happens if your little guy isn't looking very good, okay? I have that in this video as well, in this other video, about how to troubleshoot any problems you might have with your snake plant. So that was it for today's video. Let me know how your snake plant propagation goes. Leave it in the comments below. I love hearing success stories from y'all, and it totally makes my day. So let me know how it goes. Let me know if this helped. If you liked this video, go ahead and hit the thumbs up and subscribe to help support the channel and so you don't miss some awesome plant tips. And then last, make sure that you check out thegirlwiththeshovel.com for some amazing plant information about some other houseplants. It's all about houseplants over there. It's great. And I will leave a link in the description below to a blog post about snake plant care, as well as where you can find some additional tips and tricks about keeping one of these guys in your home. Have a good one, and I'll see you in the next video.